Good afternoon once again, and welcome to ZAA Global Virtual Summit. This is the session on real estate investment, and I'm joined today by a very interesting panel of Zimbabweans. We have got 4 people on the panel today who are here to share their wealth of knowledge on real estate investment. But before we get started, I would like to just thank World Remit, our sponsor, for making all this possible. I'd also like to thank Fine & Country, Kudu Business Support, and High Mount London for also chipping in to make this event a success. Follow the conversation on Twitter, hashtag ZAA Summit. We're also live on Zimbo Live, ZAA page, Facebook page, as well as YouTube. We're gonna get straight into this session. There's a lot of information, so I just want to get started and introduce our panel. Thank you guys for coming through. So I've got with me here, I've got, first of all, I've got Karen. Karen, I'm just gonna unmute you. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Tatenda, how are you?
I'm fine. Karen is based in Harare, and she's also, she's one of the local property investors that we have currently doing work in this sphere of real estate. Thank you for joining us, Karen.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak on this platform.
Awesome. I'm also just going to bring in Zeb. So Zeb and Colleen, power couple from Edmonton, Canada, real estate investors, and now authors, best-selling authors. International best-selling authors. Did I get that right?
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Great, awesome. So we're excited to hear from you guys and hear of your journey. Tell us how it's going, how it's been, and to talk to us about how we can also get involved in real estate investing. I've also got Method. I'm gonna try to pull him up as well. Hello. Yes, we've got Method. Method Mukundu is actually an engineer by profession, but now he's also into property investment, and he's trying to get the diaspora involved in that. Welcome, Method. Sorry, Method, I think you need to mute your mic.
Thank you, Tatenda, and thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Hello to the rest of the other panelists.
Great. So I'm just gonna go down the list and ask you guys to just kind of introduce yourself. Tell the world, tell everybody watching the program, who are you? I know you're real estate investors, property investors and stuff, but who are you? What has your story been? Where did you start? Was this something that you knew you were going to do as a child, or did this just kind of happen? So I'll let everyone have a go. So I'll start with Karen.
And yeah, I'd be the one to start. Thanks for that, Tatenda. My name is Karen Nyinga, and I'm the licensee and the owner of the Fine & Country license here in Zimbabwe. I've got quite a bit of experience on the local market, the regional market, as well as the international market. And I'm actually happy that Method is on, because that was probably the beginning of my story in real estate, was more so in Australia. And then, just around the world, basically Dubai and the UK. So because of the fact that Fine & Country has got offices, over 300 offices worldwide, I do get an opportunity to get an insight on what the global real estate markets are actually going through. Of course, it's sort of like an overview of what's going on. You don't get so much intimate knowledge as much as you would with what you're experiencing. So currently what I will be speaking about today is property investment, or the property options and opportunities that are available to Zimbabweans in the diaspora, as well as anybody else who's actually considering investing in Zimbabwe or within Africa in general. What kind of things to look at and consider. Real estate wasn't obviously, for me, well, maybe not obvious for everyone, but it wasn't really my first choice. We will go out to university. I was actually listening to all of the other programs before when you guys were showing about the youth. Started off with a completely different beginning in terms of what to do professionally. And then I came into real estate, and it's now probably over 15 years of experience. And it's still going. And I really enjoy the industry because it's so multifaceted. And there's just so many opportunities which you can actually come in. So that's the long story short, and otherwise we'll be here all day. Okay, I think I'll just utilize this moment to actually just add on. Just generally, of course, with what I've just learned in the past few days, or in the past few hours that we've really been discussing on the ZAA Global Virtual Summit and stuff, I've been listening to the other panelists. And so I'm just going to take this opportunity really to carry on forward with it. And some of the things that I've just picked on, some points that I've actually just picked on is that, of course, there's a desire to actually reconnect with Zimbabwe, reconnect with home for everybody. Some of the people who are actually on the panel, and some of them either were born outside of Zimbabwe or have been out of Zimbabwe for a very long time. And I know one of the moderators actually spoke about the umbilical cord on connecting to Zimbabwe. And I think one of the things that really struck me is that we should really just begin in with this whole opportunity of creating communities. The communities that, whether they start off small, but at least if we all have a common purpose and an idea of how we want to actually start, what we want to achieve, we can actually then start to push whatever the agenda is that we're really moving forward with. So, I mean, I was looking at the whole fact that even in this industry, which is the real estate industry, whichever way you want to actually call it, if you look in East Africa, they call it a chama. If you go over across the border to South Africa, you've got the stokvel. If you're coming here, your mothers have all done it around, you know. If we actually came through with that kind of a community in the real estate market of putting things together, I know some people, like, you know, your general mom and pops may not understand it when it's presented to you as a rate and you're like, what is this real estate investment trust? What does it mean? I feel that I'm going to get too lost and too confused, and all of this stuff may seem quite cumbersome. What we would really want to put forward, I guess, as a start today, as an introduction, would be that there are various ways of actually coming into investment into real estate. You can do it on your own, you can do it as a group, but what you have to have is some form of a foundation which to start with. And hopefully from there, we demystify most of the scary sides, which a lot of people actually do tend to resist getting into the real estate market because they are quite scared of all the things that are involved in it. So hopefully with a few tips that we'll present today, we'll have a lot more people coming through to invest in real estate in general.
Hey guys, sorry I dropped off there. I think it's just this network has just been a nightmare today. But thank you, Karen. I managed to catch some of that. Thank you for the insight. I think maybe now we can move on to Zeb. Zeb, you could come through and, you know, just kind of give us your backstory, tell us your journey. Are you on?
All
yes,
right.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay, perfect. Hey guys, so I'm Zeb Sikira, and I reside in Canada. And basically, growing up, I never thought I would be in this industry. That was not what I wanted to do. I had actually other things that I wanted to do, but property was not one of them. anyways, so fast forward when I moved to Canada about 18 years ago, Canada presented a lot of good opportunities. And in Canada, it took me about 10 years to be able to basically find myself in terms of what I wanted to do. And that was when I was in university. And at the time, I was majoring in psychology and I was minoring in economics. And as I was doing that, when my first year finished, I realized that I did not want to do that for the rest of my life. And if I had continued to pursue school at that point, I was going to come out with a lot of student debt. So I basically just went online to check on, on Google, to check on what had made a lot of millionaires around the world and what had made a lot of people financially free. And what I found was real estate investing. So that piqued my interest. And then from then, I looked into it a bit more further. And then after that, I decided that that's exactly what I wanted to do. So for me to do that, I had to drop out of school. So I dropped out of school, moved to a little community where I had to go and work 3 or 4 jobs over there. And as I was doing that, in the middle of doing that, I got married. My wife joined me. We basically put our heads together and we did, certain things, certain jobs. We did cleaning. We had a cleaning company. We flipped cars. We worked 3 jobs each. Like we did all these things that basically brought in money for us to be able to get into our real estate investing. So after a couple of years, we managed to get a property. I'm just going to cut this story short because it's really long. So we managed to get our first property. And from that property, we were cash flowing, I think, about $3,000 a month. And then from there, being property investors became very addictive. So our goals sort of like now became so based on increasing our portfolio. We got mentorship along the way. And then from there, that's when our real estate portfolio really grew. And as we speak right now, we have over 70 doors. And I think that's basically it. And then we wrote a book. We started writing a book about 6 months, in June. And we got it published last week. It launched last week and it became a bestseller in 7 countries. And this book basically is about you can save your way to wealth. And it's all about introducing people to a world of real estate and how they can build generational wealth. So that's my story, cut short.
I know there's a lot more to that story, but we'll get a chance to hear more of it. Maybe we should, while we're at it, we might as well bring in Colleen, who happens to be Zeb's wife and business partner. Talk to us, Colleen.
Yes, so we might as well start by addressing the elephant in the room. So Zeb is actually in Arizona. I'm like, that is so funny. So Zeb is actually in Arizona and he's staying in an Airbnb and it's a shared space, so exciting. He got to do that in the living room. So he gets to see all his roommates walk by. But you guys got a gist of our story, kind of how we started in terms of myself. I grew up from an entrepreneurial family. My parents did the rounds. They started the rounds. They were running businesses in Zimbabwe for as long as I can remember. And, when I was 12, my mom took me to meet Robert Kiyosaki. And that's kind of where the real estate seed was planted in my mind. It wasn't anything major at that time, just, more of the education of the cash flow quadrant. And knowing that you've got to navigate your way, because in that E quadrant, right, Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about employee, self-employed, business owner and investor. In the E quadrant, you're really trading your time for money. So you can only do so much. Then you go into the S quadrant where you're really able to leverage and do a little bit more. So that's kind of where that concept of, okay, maybe this is the journey I want to go through. I know I want to be an entrepreneur, which is the S quadrant where you're constantly working for money. But, when Zeb said, hey, we should do real estate, I was like, that really touches on what Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about when he talks about the investment quadrant. And right then I knew that this is something I wanted to be a part of. And I was excited to be with him on that journey. And yeah, he went over the entire rest of the story where we come together and we go for that. But yeah, wanted to give my backstory.
Awesome. And I mean, because I can see that your backstories are different, I just wanted to make sure that we all know where each person is coming from on this panel. I'm going to ask Method to do the same and just give us a rundown of his background and how he came from just being an engineer to now running a diaspora investment group. Method, what has your journey been like? Okay, you need to unmute your mic. Yeah.
Sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
Yeah, so as you indicated, Tatenda, yes, my background is engineering. So I pretty much spend much of my time globetrotting, following my passion in engineering. So I started off in Botswana. Then I spent about 4 years in Botswana, moved over to Scotland. I spent about 6 years in Scotland. I moved to England, did about 2 years there, and now been here in Australia for a while now. But real estate, for those that are watching from Botswana, will remember or they know about Pakalani. So I did quite a lot of work there with architects and QSs and contractors. We built quite a lot. It's a very exclusive residential area with a golf club, a very exclusive golf course. So that sort of connected me with real estate. But I was very young at the time, just starting a family and enjoying my career. So I didn't really get into it, although I was working in that space. So when I came over here, I actually wanted to go into something very different that sort of took me away from engineering and things that we get to do every day. So I started a wine business. So I created a wine brand. So I own a wine brand here in Australia. So we've got about 3 sparkling wines and 2 non-alcoholic grape juices. So that's something that's very different from what I do. Then in those networks, I then came across the guys that were doing property development, and they started selling to us off plans in apartments. So we just got into it, went with it, bought one, and then when it came to settlement, those apartments had actually gained equity. So it became something that we looked at and say, okay, if it's done wisely, it's not very clever to go for apartments, but for that one, it worked well. So that's when we started starting looking at it. Then I went over to Zim to visit my dad. Then I spent some time in South Africa. While I was there, I realized that you could actually own property in South Africa, although you don't live there. So immediately when I came back, started searching for a block of land. So what we did there, which is the area that I'm very much interested in, which is buy a good sized block of land, subdivide it, and put some units there. You can actually do maybe 2 or 4. You can dispose half of them, recover capital, and keep the other 2, and do it again. So those are some of the areas that we're into now in that sort of market in South Africa. And sort of these things here and these leverages are the ones that we're trying to bring to the table tonight and see if it's nighttime in Australia. That's why I'm saying tonight. So today, or in this forum rather, that's what we should bring to the table and see if we can play up those sort of models in Zimbabwe. Because I know everyone's got passion. Everyone loves to have a property in Zim. Everyone wants to invest in Zim. We all want our country to get this investment, the knowledge we have and the capital that we can leverage wherever we are in the world. So that's it really. I'll leave it there for now.
This is great. I can hear everybody saying the same things, almost like we're doing the same thing in different parts of the world. So, but before we get into it, I feel like there's some people who might be over here saying, what is real estate? What is investing in real estate? What is involved in that? When you say property investment, what do you mean? So maybe Karen could come through and try to demystify those terms in a nutshell. And while you're at it, Karen, maybe I am interested, and I'm sure a lot of people in Zimbabwe are interested to know what that space is like in Zimbabwe, what opportunities are there. So firstly, just kind of tell us what real estate investment is, and then go ahead and tell us some of the opportunities that are there in Zimbabwe. And this will also be good for, for Colleen, Zeb, and Method, because they may as well be interested in coming to do some stuff back home. So could you maybe just kind of shed some light on that?
Certainly. Thank you so much for that. So when we're talking about real estate, we're talking about obviously our brick and mortar structure for your homes, your flats, your apartments, your commercial buildings, anything that's your brick structure. That's when we're talking about real estate. I know sometimes here at home people say, and in property and I have property that I'm selling, but actually they mean furniture. That is not correct. When we're talking about real estate or property, we are talking about the actual build. We're talking about the building in itself, which you can either rent out, or you can then just, you can actually just dwell in it or utilize it for commercial purposes. So that's the real estate part of it to start off. And then when we're now talking about the investment, anything that's going to be an investment is something that you're looking at creating some form of an income for you, whether it is current income right now, or it is going to be something for the future. So there's a lot of things that you would look at before you actually come into an investment. You're actually trying to consider, do I want to maximize that investment right now? Or would it be something where I want to be in this investment for a short term, for a medium term, or for a long term? So there are actually quite a lot of things that you have to take a look at before you actually just say, I'm a real estate investor, or I'm an investor in general. What I love about what Colleen actually brought in is, when you're talking about the E quadrant and you're talking about the S quadrant and stuff like that, is that anything that you're going to be doing, if you're going to be in the investment thing, is that you're looking to make a profit. You're looking to ensure that you increase what it is that you put in. And then, of course, the time factor is, if you're going to be really savvy about it and you're really going to be aggressive about your investment, you want to do that in the shortest and the quickest possible amount of time. Reason being that the more money you can actually make in your earlier phases, first of all, it gets you out of that investment, or it can actually help you to multiply that investment, which again is something that they will speak about, because you will start off with one item, you make a profit, you get another one. So now you've got two streams of income that will be coming in from that particular model, if that is what you're going to continually do. So now when we're talking about the space in Zimbabwe, there is actually quite in my opinion, there is actually quite a large space for real estate investment in Zimbabwe. However, we have to really shake off quite a lot of the misconceptions that a lot of people do have, and sort of like forums such as these, as well as others that are actually presented, come through with talking about specific areas. Now, I'll take on from where Method had actually spoken about getting a piece of land and subdividing, or getting a piece of land and building cluster units, or townhouses, which we're actually seeing that this phenomenon is actually on the increase here in Harare as well as in Bulawayo, even in Vic Falls itself. So people are building, people are maximizing the space that they have. Of course, this is all council and relevant authorities permitting, because of the ordinances that actually exist in all the sections. So if you do actually come through to say, okay, fine, you know what, I'm thinking I'm going to buy an acre of land in Harare, and what I would want to do is subdivide this particular land, or I just want to actually build these clusters. How many can I fit on this piece of land? When I'm putting that kind of thing, what kind of design am I looking at? The densification permitted in that particular area. And wonderful thing to do is to sell, of course, to get your capital back, your capital appreciation, or to at least make the money back of what you have invested into that particular investment to start off with, and then to retain a proportion of it so that you've got that income coming in, whether it's going to be rental. The short-term space, we've seen what's happened with Airbnb. Everybody was a bit worried about what had happened with Airbnb because of COVID. But we're seeing that, people are back up on traveling, and, Zeb's out there in a unit right now. So we're getting back to where we were before. So the options and the potential in Zimbabwe is there. You just have to probably do your homework a lot more in advance and ask the in-depth questions, because it's not, the facilities that are required are not as ubiquitously available in Zimbabwe. So not every single place in Harare or in Bulawayo will be on your sewer line or will be on your mains line. We know that we have to be on these lines where you've got an opportunity to actually densify. So it's not to say that you can't do that with your stands, it's just that the number of units that you potentially can put in there may be just reduced.
Thank you, Karen. What I got from there is that, when you've got a little bit of money to invest, you can look into property. You don't necessarily have to buy a big truck and do freight, because I think in Zim, people run out of ideas when it comes to investing. We talk about, okay, I'm going to run a nightclub, I'm going to do this, but there's another avenue here that's available, and it's just a matter of finding the right people to talk to. So I hope people back home watching this can see that there's other avenues, and hopefully people will be reaching out and trying to get more information. But maybe just to take the conversation out of Zimbabwe a little bit, I wanted to hear from Zeb and Colleen. So Karen is talking about this as a way to get, you get back your capital that you've put in and so forth. So it seems to me like you could actually make this into a business, right? Real estate investing as a business. I'd like to know from you guys, Zeb and Colleen, because I'm hearing your story and where you started from. How viable is this as a business? What has been your experience with having this as a business, real estate investment? Can people actually do well and have a viable business doing real estate? I think I need to, your mic.
You're muted.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, most definitely you can do real estate as a business, and of course, with any business, there's challenges that you might face. But at the end of the day, with real estate, you can win 4 times, right? There's appreciation, right? Your property usually appreciates over time. The mortgage pay down, if you do have a mortgage, tenants are paying your mortgage for that. And then, as well as after 25 years, for example, if you do have a mortgage, your tenants would have paid for that. Plus, you do have the value now would be probably double the price of what you bought it for. And at the same time, you can decide of what you want to do with the property, whether you want to keep it, as a generational wealth for the next generation, or you can sell it and then you can do whatever you want with the money. So definitely you can do real estate as a business.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest thing is I find some investors look at real estate as just real estate, right? You really get to win when you use real estate as a vehicle and run it like a business. Because when you put that business hat on, you're thinking the same way you would as an entrepreneur. Tatenda, you brought up running a nightclub or all these other gagnettes, we heard it was a big thing going on in Zim at one point. And if you run real estate the same way, you've got a higher chance of actually making it into a successful business. A lot of people at times have the misconception that you could buy a house, let it sit, have the tenants pay for it, and that's it, right? You're not thinking about the bigger picture. Why just stop at one? Is there a way you could come up with a plan and say, you know what? Instead of buying one house, I'm going to go a little bigger, right? Because one house may need the same management that one building may have, right? But when you put that thinking cap on, and I heard the talks about working together, syndication, and you're able to leverage other people's strengths and work together as a team, you're able to go further because you're not just looking at it as one property. You're now looking at the business aspect of it and saying, how do I make this into a business? How can this be an income generating source on its own? And yeah, at times you just got to go bigger in order to step away from that comfort zone of it's just one house.
Yeah.
Sorry, because we tend not to want to really put a lot of effort or a little time into this. I think maybe we tend to take away from it because we are doing it halfway. Is it always, because I know it's worked for some people, right? Where you say, okay, I'm going to stop completely. I'm gonna quit my day job. Okay, how soon do I get to quit my day job? I mean, how much time am I supposed to wait before I start to see it come through? How easy is it for me to get that house, flip it, get my returns, get some profit? How easy is that?
So just to put a disclaimer out there, real estate investing is not a get rich quick scheme, right? It's a gradual process, right? And basically, for you to quit your job and to do real estate as a full time, you need to replace your working income, right? You want to make sure that your real estate investments replace your working income, and then from there, then you can pursue that full time because you can see the value of you making more money through that business. So don't just quit your job because you got one house. You want to make sure that your working income has been replaced by your real estate business before you do that. So, yeah.
Okay, well, you just saved me. I was about to call my boss and just kind of tell him that I decided to do otherwise. So that's good. Because I mean, look at someone like Method. You have started off. You were doing engineering, right? And then you realize, okay, you know what? There's more here. I'd love to hear more of how the Diaspora scheme is doing, because then I'm sure you're also helping other people come into this. So did you also have to kind of put everything down engineering wise, or you're still doing other things? I heard you talking about wines. How is it going? Are you running everything concurrently? How are people, coming into the scheme in the diasporas? And I'm assuming this is Zimbabweans in the diaspora who are, you're bringing together to do this.
Yeah. Yes, Tatenda. Yeah. Yes, Tatenda. I'm still actually still doing my engineering. I'm still running that one business as well. And I agree with what's been said there. It's the same with us. So what you're calling real estate investment is you've got to put some money in it. You've got to get in. So the issue there is you've got to sacrifice. You've got to make some savings. There are some people that are lucky that have got parents that are probably maybe sitting on some equity. So mom and dad put some equity in, and the child gets into property. And maybe they can hold on to the property, sell it, make a profit, split it, give back mom and dad their money, and off they go with profit. So they can then take off from there. But not everyone is lucky, so we have to put in a bit of effort. Then you got to make the right choices as well. If you buy in the wrong place, you end up losing money, and you're out of there before you've even started. So there is also a lot of technicalities involved, especially when you're going into areas like property development, because then there is all these issues that if you don't know anything about subdivision, if you don't know anything about house plans, if you don't know anything about utilization of space, again, you start losing money, or you end up paying a lot of money for bringing in professionals to assist you to do that. And that's where the platform that we're running called Diaspora, a property investment network. That's where it comes in. Because what we have with the network now is we create projects that allow people that want to invest into property to come in, knowing that they're working with a group of people that are, one, like-minded, two, are bringing certain skills that they don't have. So say, for instance, you come in and you come from a finance background, and you can access capital. So you know where we can get capital to invest into property. There is people who can do architectural drawings. There is people who can do structural drawings. We've got people that can then go on and build. So create those consortiums, small, some can be large. But if you look at the example I gave, we've got a scheme in South Africa at the moment where we've got a land that is going through subdivision. We're going to be putting 4 units there, right? And there's people that are going to buy into that. So we already have the land, so there's some equity there. There's people that are going to come in with money. Those investors are bringing in capital. And then there's people that are looking at the subdivision, the drawings, the engagement of project managers, and the construction side. When the project finishes, we then look at contributions, who's put what. And all this has to be agreed upfront, and we got to have it written down. So there's no pocket handshakes or anything. You've got to be as professional as it is. So it's like the other guys who said, it's not easy. It takes time, but it's enjoyable. Once you know your way around, and if you choose the area, so if you want to buy, rent out, and share the income from rentals, that's one niche. You can do buy, renovate, sell, and share profits. That's another niche. You can then do what I just said earlier, which is property development, which is actually buy land, do the subdivision, the drawings and everything, and then do construction. At the end of it all, you can decide to keep those units, put people in a gated unit. For people coming from the diaspora, we have as well access to guys that want to buy at home. So that's where the network comes in. So it's a platform that just brings in people in the diaspora that want to get into property investment. You don't have to be running a property business to invest in property. That's also something that we have to be clear about. Yeah, some people turn it into a business, and that's good. And I think that's where Zeb and Colin are, and the rest of us here in the panel are sort of getting in there. That's what we're doing. But there is other people that can actually just invest in property, and they can have a unit. If we do a project, they can have a unit out of it. That's gained equity, and they might actually have bargained because they're working with people that know what they're doing. We're not paying a fortune for engineers, architects, or contractors, because we've got the panel that is also involved in those projects as well. That's what the Diaspora Investment Forum or network is all about.
Right. I heard you talking about being able to buy properties outside of Zimbabwe, even though you're not staying in that country. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so in South Africa, you can actually buy property. So you can buy property if you're not staying there. So it's a good area. You would want to buy in Zimbabwe, but if obviously for any other reasons, I'll just touch on Zim just before I touch on South Africa. In fact, Zimbabwe is quite good. The property in Zim is good. The only problem is that diasporans are not taking an active role, and that's what we need to again bring people like Karen into these forums, where they come in knowing that they can then put a block of land that is close to the mainland where we can subdivide. We can look at even other engineering solutions that can allow us to densify, like managing the flow out of that unit. We can do that out of that block. We can do all those sort of things. So, but then what it allows people to do is, I'll give you an example. If we've got a block of land in Borodale, that's worth 100,000. On your own, 100,000 US dollars is a lot of money, right? Block of land is 8,000 square meters, right? So 8 people can come together and look at it and say, guys, we can buy this block of land, right? 8 people at 14K each, right, can buy that block of land, right? So 12 to 14K, you can buy the block of land, right? And obviously you have to know that you can actually subdivide that, and also make sure that each subdivision can be disposed independently, so that once you do that, each one's got autonomy, right? But you're already in Borodale, or 14K, right? And you've got 1,000 square meters to yourself, right? 1,000 square meters, for those that don't know, you're talking about a 30 by 35 meter block. That's a big size. You pay quite a lot of money where I stay here in Australia for that sort of block. So you can actually put a detached villa on that unit, right? And that's $14,000 for the land. And then we can look at working with you again, looking at how much will it cost to actually build that villa. So it is, when you look at it, it is much cheaper, much easier, and you're actually using what you need. You don't need that 8,000 square meter block. It'll be expensive for you to build it, and it'll be expensive for you to maintain with the landscaping. And by the time you finish buying the land, I think you'll be out of cash flow. So that's where the Diaspora in Property Investment Forum is trying to help people to come together and do those sort of things. Now I go to South Africa, it's even a different ball game. There you can do it even in smaller groups or maybe on your own. If you go outside peri-urban areas, Peri, Joburg, Perry, Durban, and all those sort of areas. You can get very good blocks of land, and you take advantage of the exchange rate. The rand fluctuates quite a lot, so you can then take advantage. Even people in Zim, they can take advantage because they use US dollars in some areas. So if you make money in US, take advantage of the exchange, go buy a block of land. Now, what you do, there's options in South Africa. You can actually develop it and then rent it out. Or you can, because South Africa's system is still a bit strong, they are running mortgage systems there. They run this bond system that is still good. So you can actually sell and then do it again. You can sell and do it again. But my advice is at least every block of land that you buy and subdivide and build, keep a unit yourself. You can sell the rest, recover capital, go do something else, but keep a unit to yourself. So that's how you build your portfolio. So that's something that two brothers can do, four friends can do, husband and wife can do. But don't start it as a business. Start with one block and network with the right people that can help you save money in terms of what to do and the know-how. And then you do the next one, and before long you'll be talking something different.
I appreciate this conversation. I feel like this recording is going to be a national treasure. We need to keep it safe because people are dropping gems on here. One of the things that has come up from the comments is from Misha Nyamangala. She says, the issue I find is wanting to do these things but not knowing who to trust. The horror stories we have heard and seen causes hesitation in doing it. And I agree. I've not tried any of this, but I have heard many horror stories. People getting duped. You buy a piece of land that's already been sold to somebody else. You've got somebody who's supposed to be upgrading your property, not doing it, running away, things like that. What advice can you give people? Karen, I'll say, because this is definitely a problem within Zim. What advice can you give people on that? And also, because Method also said that there's a gap. He feels like the diaspora isn't really jumping in and taking up these things. It also could be that they don't know, or as well they're afraid. So there's two things there. So what's available for them? What resources are available for people to get to know what they need to do to make sure that they don't get disappointed?
Okay, thanks for that. And I'm glad that Method actually did speak of this in the manner that he did bring it up. The one part that I'd like to say is that, fraud is not something that's completely unique to Zimbabwe. I'm not so sure if anybody really did read the article. I thought it was a joke where allegedly this man sold an airport to guys, and it's a property that didn't exist. Whether or not that's an urban myth or it's actually true, these things happen. It's not just in Zimbabwe. Not to say that washes things and makes that right. When it comes to these kind of situations, and I can understand why people in the diaspora, of course, are a bit hesitant to come in, because they're like, I'm over here in the UK, in Australia, and I'm sending my £5,000 a month, and I'm expecting my home to be built, or I'm expecting that by the end of it, I've got the stand, the things just, I'm not on the ground to follow things through. Not that it's foolproof. However, whenever you're buying something, usually you want to ensure that you've done your due diligence. If it's something on a developer, look into the developer. You're allowed to secure your own legal counsel or somebody who can actually do that due diligence for you. So they will look at the paperwork, the registration of the developer, who the people are, what other prior work they have done. They will look at the location of the particular development, if this is what we're actually looking at in specificity. They will look at the council paperwork. That should all be in order. When a person is going through, just like what Method actually stipulated, in that they're things that need to be done. Obviously you've got your surveyors, you've got all of those things that need to go through the relevant departments so that at least something gets to the point where you can actually start building. So all of the paperwork and the stages that actually have to be approved, they all go through relevant departments, whether it's city council, or rural district council, wherever it is that we're looking at. And that should all tie in to the person where you're actually now sourcing the stand. If those things are not so clear and it seems a bit wishy-washy and it seems like, put your money in now and then you'll see things later, all because it sounds cheap. Cheap is not always the best thing. Cheap sometimes ends up to be a bit more expensive. And, sometimes I'm like, okay, I only want to spend £10,000. I only want to spend $10,000 on something. And if it seems too quick and it seems too cheap, sometimes just take that extra few days just to read in a bit more. And then also have somebody go on site. It's always very important to actually have a viewing. I personally, in my state agency, do not permit any sales to go through unless we've had a verified proxy, if a person is outside of the country, actually go through to the site and view the particular property, view the particular piece of land, verify that the diagram that you've got for that stand matches what you have seen, the stand number, all of the subdivisions are in order to what it is that you actually have. And then don't just pay money without a receipt, without anything that you can use should you need to go back and say, guys, I actually put money down on the table, but I didn't get anything. Somewhere where someone is calling you to say, no, pay now. It's Saturday. Give me the money, blah, blah. Make sure that your paperwork is done when I go back to the office. Why are you dealing with a person out of the office? So ensure that you've also gone to the company that you're actually dealing with, or at least have somebody who has gone through to that particular company. This is if you're not on the ground. If you are, then definitely go around and take your time on this, because of course, real estate is not like, a little market store where you can put $10 and if you lose it, you lose it. We're talking about usually a substantial amount of money. Now, if you're a person who started off with savings, you do get despondent because you're now like, okay, I've lost my savings. Where do I start from to do this again? That would definitely leave a sour taste in anybody's mouth, to be honest. If you're doing it where you've taken money from other people and they have trusted you, there's a lot of responsibility on that. The fiduciary duty that you have acting on behalf of others really drives a person to like absolutely lose your mind, because you're thinking, I've got the responsibility of many other people who I've convinced to come into this scheme, and things are not correct. So check the paperwork is basically what we can say. Ensure that you've either got legal counsel or a proxy who's going to be running around on your behalf. Verify the location and verify the actual property that it does exist. And check that the paperwork matches to the people who are actually there, stating that they are the owners or they are the developers. And if the developers have gone into an arrangement, like a joint venture, at least try to ensure that you have got all of the information of the actual original owners of the land. We have got the deeds registry, we've got company's office and stuff. It may take time to get that information out, but it is not closed to the public. These are all public records, which you can actually pay a fee and then obtain that information, at least to give you a bit of peace and comfort before you go forward.
There's a lot of, seems like there's a lot that goes into it. Besides just the actual capital that you put into the investment, you're going to have to do a lot of visiting different offices, getting the correct information, perhaps hiring a lawyer, someone who can actually read through the fine print, things that you don't understand, because I think some of the problems come from wanting to do it all on your own. But there is need for people who actually have an understanding of the industry to come through and help you. And that's one thing that, people should kind of take from this, to say, look, there's resources out there, go to the right people, talk to the right person, and they can help you through this. But now I'm thinking of the bigger picture here, where I'm thinking of, okay, so there's all these monies involved. Now I'm like, how much would I actually need if I'm going to start this? Where would I start? I know Zeb and Colleen, because we've heard your backstory, and I'm thinking, how much, when you said, okay, now we're ready to start, how much did you actually have? Is there a good time to start? And also, because I know about your book, I want to hear what, because you said you can't save your way. I'm like, okay, so how do we do this? How much do you need to actually say, okay, you know what, I'm going to start investing now? is there some sort of a benchmark, or is just some sort of a measure to say, okay, when you've made this much, when you've got this much sitting around, then take that and do this? Is there something that can kind of give us an indication of how much I do need if I'm going to start investing?
Yeah, so we definitely touch on that on our book, You Can't Save Your Way to Wealth. And the idea behind that is people feel if you're getting into real estate, you want to save as much as you can just so that you could get that money to invest. Now, what the panel has touched on, which I thought was interesting, is we touched on the diversity of getting into real estate. We touched on actually getting a physical property on your own. We also touched on the topic of being able to invest with a small amount and getting into a bigger deal that you normally wouldn't be able to get into. So the question isn't necessarily how much do you need to invest, it's what parts do you want to play in investment, right? Because I could get in with, let's say, $5,000, right? I may not be able to do the 14,000 USD to get a piece of land at the moment, but I could do $5,000 and I could join in a big investment group of other investors who are doing something and own a portion of something big that's happening. While I'm working my way to that $14,000 that I'm able to then get something of my own. So I would say it's not necessarily, let me wait until I get a big amount of money. It's what can I get into that's small and that I could snowball and build into something bigger until I'm ready for that big investment. You're muted.
Okay. So as for me, I would say it depends, right? You can get into real estate depending on where you are. You can get into real estate being creative by probably maybe even putting down $1,000, sometimes probably even putting zero down, right? It just depends on where you are in the world, where you're able to do that. So all this to say, you don't have to wait to say, I need to have $2,000 or I need to have $5,000 before I get into real estate. When we got into real estate, we had no idea that there's other ways that you can get into real estate without having to wait to save like 12,000 or 14,000, right? But after we got mentorship and, we got exposed to a lot of ways of how you can get into real estate. So I would say, you can start as little as 0,000, 2,000, depending on what exactly you're trying to do with your real estate to build up that cash flow for you to be able to buy your own property at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, because it does start to sound a little daunting when you're hearing, because I haven't heard anyone say, well, you've got $200, I've heard thousands and whatnot. But what I want to know at this point, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the same thing as well, because I know probably Karen can also agree to say that, like right now for a lot of people, not just in Zim, but everywhere, sometimes things are just not flowing right. Cash flow is just not right there, but you do have a little bit. You've just got just a little bit. Is it possible? Are there reputable schemes? Because we've seen some of these things. Personally, I've seen some adverts where you're like, invest in this and there, Are there things like that for real estate where you can actually join a group of investors, not necessarily just like, people that or whatever, but actual companies that help with those things. So say somebody is in the UK right now, there's somebody who's just coming from their shift right now, and they're like, okay, I've got this money, I want to do something, and they're trying to get that information. Is it possible to actually join such real estate schemes with maybe less than 2,000, something like that? Is it possible? Are there companies like that?
Go ahead, Colleen.
Yes,
Colleen, I saw you nodding.
It is possible. No matter where you are in this world, you definitely can find these organizations. I would say the biggest thing we touched on was do your due diligence, right? Because more than anything, you've got to do your research. Karen went into detail in terms of what research you should do, and you've got to put in that time to vet all these people you're going to work with, right? Are they reputable? Do you guys share the same values, right? Because when you go to the details, okay, who am I working with? Are they reputable? How accessible is it when I need information? What are your goals? How long are you able to invest this money for? If you were to invest $2,000 with me today, and that's literally all you had, that may not be the best strategy. Because when things go sideways, you're now calling in like, I need that $2,000 back. Always find out, how long am I investing? And know that you could go for a year, 5 years, however long it is, without having access to that money until it matures. So definitely think, what exactly are the terms? What's my strategy? Will I need this money in 6 months? Is this my emergency savings plan that I'm just hoping will grow for me overnight and then I get it back with a little interest? So definitely put some thought into it. And once you can answer those questions for yourself, do the research and find out who's out there, and then go through questions with them in terms of, what their values are, where the money's going, how your money is secured, how they're paying their interest. When do you get your interest? Do you get your interest at the beginning? Do you get it monthly? Do you get it at the end of the term? So ask those questions. That will give you a better sense of what exactly you're getting into. And don't be scared to ask questions, right? People say all the time, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? It's only those questions that we don't ask. So be clear of what you're hoping to get, and make sure you're asking those questions and understand that this is the vehicle you want to use and it'll serve your purpose.
Yeah, most definitely. Yes. And, also I wanted to add on the interest part, right? Like, know what type of interest rate you're looking for your money, because it's your money at the end of the day, right? You cannot let the other person dictate how much interest they're going to give you. You need to have a certain amount of return on your money that you're looking for, and then you can go out there and look for those people who are able to give you that interest on your money. And at the same time, make sure it's very important to do your due diligence. Very important, because you just don't want to give your money to anybody, and then when it matures, they are nowhere to be found. So, yeah, that's the last part that I wanted to say.
Yeah, this thing of people disappearing with money is quite a common thing now, because we've touched on Zimbabwe, right, on opportunities that are there in Zimbabwe. But I wanted to talk to the Zimbabwean in the diaspora, whether in the UK, in Australia, or in Canada. So yes, there are these opportunities that are available. So say now you have your 15,000, you've got this 15,000 to invest method. Maybe you could shed some light on this, since you've got this diaspora investment network going on. What would I need? So I've got my 15,000 right now. What else do I need to do? Do I just give you the money and sit back and wait for you to do your magic? How does it work? Do I need to? I mean, I can do this. Can I invest anywhere in the world? Once I've given you this 15,000, do I get a property in the UK? Do I get a property in Zimbabwe? How does it work?
Right. Yeah. Good question, Tatena. Well, I'll just clarify that the 15,000 that we're talking about, we're only using it as an example. It's not the money that is required for people to invest. It might be less, it might be more, depending on what they want to do. But in the case of what I touched on, I just wanted to touch on what Karen talked about and what Zeb and Colleen also talked about in terms of people running away with money. The people in the diaspora. I think we need to send it back to them as well, because they are in the diaspora. The way they buy property in the diaspora is no different from the way they should buy property in Zimbabwe. So in the diaspora, you buy property through, everywhere you go, you're told, have you got your lawyer, have you got your conveyancing company and all that? So you've got all these people that hold your money until things are ready to be transferred, then the money gets transferred. So there is checks and balances. People shouldn't be losing their money. If people are going with money in envelopes and exchanging monies in the roads, dealing with land barons and all that, we can't help that. But in Zimbabwe, they've got the same system as well. Same as in South Africa, they've got the same system as well, where you actually nominate a lawyer or you agree with the seller that the money stays here. Once you're ready to transfer the deeds, then you get paid. I get deeds and I get the certificate to the land. So these things are standard. So people can come up with stories, but I think we look at them and saying, there's something you didn't do yourself. That's why in that situation. Right. Now, to answer this question you're talking about here, it's not like you raise 15,000 and you call us up or connect with us. What I said earlier is that we create projects. So what we do is we identify land. So we can actually buy the land, or we can, let's say, work with Karen and say, okay, is there a piece of land that we can have? Okay, there's a block of land. What's the value of the block of land? And we do some designs and we look at how many units or villas or type of design that we can fit in there. Then we float that. So once we float that, once we know how many units we can put there, and we also know that the subdivision will go through, then we float it. And that's when people can look at the project and say, oh, I like the location, I like the design, that's the size that fits my requirements. And then we then give you the breakdown, buy into that. And then we also then arrange and look at, do we want to do staged development, where we say we are now at floor level, everyone comes in and pays there, and we're now at roof level, everyone pays the builder, and we go on like that. If we have a builder that is willing to build, and then we look at reinvestments for everyone that came in. Someone might have come in with the land, someone might have done the designs, the builder might have developed, and there are people with the money that have done that development and said, I want that. So more like buying off plan, again, we can do those sort of things. So it's different projects. So you got to look at the project. So once we float the project, we look at it, and every project comes with different arrangements.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed that I have to put in a little bit more work. I thought I could just kind of give people money and sit back, but I'm gonna.
Well, look, let me just say this as well, Tatenda. If you're going into real estate, you've got to define responsibilities, right? So you don't just bring your money and that's it. You have responsibilities as well as the investor, right? And the other guy is really tight. You need clear time frames. So you need to know what your responsibilities are, and you need clear time frames. If it's a development, you need to know when it's going to start, when it's going to finish. You also need to know how long you're going to be in it. Are you going to start at the end, get your unit, get your keys, and then put it to a real estate agent and say, sell this apartment for me or sell this unit for me? You get your money, you recover your capital, put money in the pocket, you do it again. So you've got to have a get-out plan as well. So everything you do is going to be planned by you, the investor, the guy with the person $15,000. You should know your game from beginning to end. You know what I mean? That's what we're trying to do with the people from the diaspora. We're trying to get them, power. If we come together in the diaspora and we go to Zimbabwe and we want to do something, we should have more leverage than what I can ever have on my own. At the moment, Zimbabwe is so steep against the diaspora. People are going in there with money. They're having to chase around people saying, I want this block of land. It's taken, but there's this one. They end up buying the one that they don't need. You know what I mean? So there's all these things that people should organize ourselves first as the diasporans. When we feel like we can influence, we can leverage, then we go and engage. And that's what we should do. We should be the drivers, not the ones that are following after the developments.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Very good point. And sorry, go ahead, Karen.
No, I was just about to concur with what Method is saying over there, because one of the points that I was just noting as he was speaking is that we've got a lot of Zimbabweans who are obviously outside of Zimbabwe, and right now, think about it. You guys are used to a certain kind of lifestyle and the quality of life in Australia and Canada, in the States, everywhere, and then you come back here into Zimbabwe, and the first thing is everyone, is there power? Is there water? Is there this? Is there that? Whereas, the thing about the real estate or the build industry, that, like I said before, it's so multifaceted. And exactly in the same mind as what Colleen actually said, is that if you're going to think about this at the mind of an entrepreneur, you'll see that, literally down to the bottom, last screw, everything is needed within real estate. So if a person is going to really look at this as a build business kind of venture and how we're going to invest in this market and stuff like that, we have so many things that we can actually bring in. Even right now, even if we look at global trends, looking at sustainable development, whether it's in the water side, road networks, if we're looking at power, If we're looking at new methods of construction, I mean, a method you'll be able to say a bit more about this as an engineer in terms of how to build ergonomical housing and faster, whatever materials. And it affects so many things that, you know, just basically shows you just how much of a broad canvas Zimbabwe actually is. So here you are, you guys are out there. You can bring in the America to Zimbabwe. You can bring in Australia to Zimbabwe. You can bring in the Asias to Zimbabwe. What you have experienced, what you're accustomed to, you know, this whole thing right now, this plight of COVID, which has affected the whole globe, actually, to be honest, has just probably, to me, brought a whole lot of these things to mind, in that we have got such a huge disconnect with our urban and our rural, right? And not just by distance, but if you think about what has happened, not only with COVID, what happened with the floods, you know, what happened when communication went out and power went out and all of those things, we were so disconnected. Now, if we think that how can we actually bridge that gap, guys in the diaspora are aware of what's actually going on. I mean, I was watching yesterday's panel, and William Sachiti was talking about robot cars or something like that to get medical and stuff like that out there. And we're thinking, that seems so foreign a concept to us. The first thing we think of as Zimbabweans are potholes. Why do we keep thinking of obstacles that are going to stop us from moving forward? Let's now start planning how we're actually going to be pushing this whole agenda of the development of Zimbabwe, such that there's no difference with the platform that we've got here to that of the States or anywhere else. And we can start pushing all of that kind of technology. And you're out there in the UK, you're like, okay, fine, this is what I've done. Let me bring it in, because here you can prototype things, you can test things. You've got a market that's just got such great appetite for so many things, and we all fail. I think, you know, this is the thing about entrepreneurship, is that it's not just going to be easy. Sometimes you make it in the first try. But Zimbabwe is there with all of these various things, and the real estate market has got so many ways of actually getting into it, investment-wise, I think, which everybody touched on.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of information coming out of this session, and I'm hoping that people can then follow in the comments later on and read through some of the stuff. But one of the comments that's actually come up is from Tino Zoe. She's just kind of pasted the Zimbabwean website for Department of Deeds, Companies and Intellectual Property, and I think that's a very valuable link to have in terms of doing your due diligence, making sure that you've looked in the right places for information and so forth. So thank you for that, Tino. So let me just take a quick break, and then when we come back, I would like to maybe go a bit deeper into specifically what's available for people in the diaspora right now at home in Zimbabwe, and then maybe touch a little bit into mentorship. How can people be mentored into this real estate, into the real estate business? So I'll just take a quick break, and then we'll come back and touch on some of those things. Hi, welcome back. So maybe
You meant quick, right?
Sorry.
You meant quick, literally.
Yeah, I just needed to just kind of give everybody a chance to just kind of catch a breath. But yes, we're back. So I wanted to maybe to start off. We've heard a lot. Okay, you need to do your due diligence. You need to make sure you're talking to the right people. You need to to actually put quite a bit of effort into doing this real estate investment. Running it as a business is actually viable. We can actually do this and actually be successful. But I wanted to know if, say, I want to start out now, right? I want to get into this. Are there opportunities out there? Are there people who are mentoring us into this business? Where can I get information? Can I have someone hold my hand and walk me through this? What resources are available for Zimbabweans in the diaspora and also Zimbabweans at home? Maybe for the diaspora, I'll start with Zeb and Colleen. I know you guys have the book, but what sort of programs are you running, trying to, because a lot of information is not available. You see, a lot of people don't know what's available for them out there in terms of real estate. We just kind of feel like it's, sad to say, we feel like it's for the white people. And that is true, because I've heard a lot of people say it like that. They're like, this is not really for us. But you're in a space where you're interacting with white people, right? And you are African. What resources are there for us to jump into that space where you're at? Colleen and Zeb, to start off with.
Well, I mean, I'm going to start with how we got started, right? Like when we got started, we kind of started it on our own, right? We were going to watch YouTube videos. We were going to read as many books as we could find, and we're going to kind of navigate our way through it. And that worked until we kind of hit a roadblock. We realized that you only know what you know, right? And unless you're willing to invest in yourself, you can only go so far. So we saw an ad on Facebook, talk about trusting the internet. We saw an ad on Facebook and we were like, okay, we're gonna make this trip and go learn. And just as we were going through the process, we found out that it was gonna cost $20,000 to get this education. So we were on the verge of, we're not doing this, we can't afford it, no, it's not happening. And just as we were walking out, we met this lady who was like, you have to make this investment. You've got to invest in yourself. It's going to change your life. And we did. So we did that on a credit card. And for you guys in the diaspora, credit cards could be anywhere from, 10% to 19.99. And so we did that on our credit card. Now, what I realized is when our backs were against the wall, we were willing to do so much more in order to make this work. And we did literally whatever it took to do that. And Tatenda, you touched on the point that we're in the rooms of a lot of people that don't look like us. Now we're speaking on stages in rooms where we look into the crowd and we're like the only ones, if not, we're one of 5. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to make it accessible, because if it was easy, there'd be more people like us in that $20,000 room. However, that's not the case for our community. So we wanted to bring something that was affordable, where we knew that we could deliver the same level of education, we could bring our experiences, and we could also empower our community at the same time. So we took everything we've learned in almost a decade, put a bit of it in our book, which is a great start to get learning. And then we said we want to be able to offer that same level of education, community, and support in a program that would help other people be able to do the same. And we've gone out to work with people in Canada, US, UK, and in Zim. And we've been able to make these, in South Africa, we've been able to open up this education, because it's not one dimensional. It doesn't matter that I'm in Canada, you're in Australia, or in the UK. This education is something that we're here to teach you how to fish, so you could then go out there in your community and use the tools you've learned to then go do what you need to do.
Exactly. And I like the fact that you touched on and said it's not all about just watching YouTube videos and say, I'm good to go. You actually have to follow the people that are doing exactly what you want to do. And I was actually talking to someone the other day, and he was like, oh, look, man, if I just follow you, am I going to be able to do exactly what you're doing? And I said to him, you can follow me every single day, but you're not going to get the actual background of the things that need to be prepared. Like, for example, we need to look at how are you financially? Where are you? What is your goal? Where are you going? All that stuff. So, which brings into mentorship. You actually need to get, educated on all these things before you can actually go out there and execute. And that's what we learned, right? The more you learn, the more you earn. That's what they say. And of course, for mentorship programs, there's a fee for that. And the reason why is because what you don't pay for, they say if you don't pay, you don't pay attention, right? So it's very important that you definitely get mentored, and from that you can then execute. So that's what I can say for now.
Awesome. I think YouTube videos, because yes, we do watch YouTube and everything, but there is need for us to kind of reach out to people who have walked that path already, who can give us, a first-hand information to say, look, if you do this, it works. If you do this, it doesn't. So I'm just wondering if there's a Zimbabwean in Canada right now watching, and they wanted to get mentored by you guys, and they're seeing, because I follow you guys, right, and I see the success. I mean, you guys are exciting over there with now it's really starting to become tangible. Now, how do I then approach you? How does it work if I wanted to get mentorship from Zeb and Colleen Sekera? How do I go about it?
I would say the first stop is to check out our website, 16 Week Investor, and go through it, complete the application form, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure this is a great fit for both of us, right? And it's an experience, and we want it to be a pleasant one for all parties involved. So go through the website, complete the questionnaire, the application, and we'll take it from there.
Great. All right. And I hope there's some people who are going to actually come through and get some of this. I'll move on to method, and just same sort of question. So if I wanted to actually get in touch, if I'm in Australia right now, and I wanted to get some mentorship, I want to get involved with the Diaspora Investment Fund that you've got running, where would I reach you? How does it work? Is there an online platform that I can come through? How does that work?
Yes, there is an online platform. So it's actually in development at the moment. But what you can do is you can catch me on Pacific One Drop. So if you look us up on Pacific One Drop, so you can get in touch. So what we do is we float the projects, and then if you're interested in any one of the projects, then we can take it from there. In terms of mentorship, I'm not yet set up the way that Zeb and Colleen are. Obviously, they are advanced in that space. But in terms of those that want to learn, it's almost the three things that you need to do is to be involved. Being involved, it just means you need to understand property. You need to walk around, just understand when they say 2-bedroom apartment, what do they mean? You know what I mean? Say 3-bed villa, what do they mean? So you need to go visit these properties, have a look, go to auctions, look at plans, try to see it, look at it. What is functional about this property? What is not? What is there to like and what is there not to like? Know about location, know about which areas are growth areas. When they say growth areas, what do we mean by that? And if you're saying overpriced areas, what do we mean by that? You know what I mean? And if they say these are stagnant areas, what do they mean about that? Because there are areas where prices never change. But what is it of use to you? It is stable, yes, but if you want to stay there as a family house, it's okay. If you're going to be there for 25 years, that's fine. So you are saving and yet staying in your house. That's fine. But if you're looking at building equity, then you have to look at location, which are the areas that you buy property. Next year, you're looking at a different amount. And also, if you're looking at long term, which areas are likely to get government investment and funding, where everybody is going to move into. You got to look at obviously demographics as well. Look at age of people and incomes and all those sort of things. So these things are important, but they're not rocket science. Everyone can read that. We all read a lot. We consume a lot of unnecessary news. So we should be able to read some of these things. The other thing you need is enablers. You need enablers. You can do everything you want, but you need the right networks. You need people that can enable what you intend to do. So, and that's another thing that we have maybe a responsibility that later on, for those that are now capable, maybe Zeb and Colleen, myself, Karen, you can look at, some of those projects that we're talking about, they should also be projects that can be targeted. You know what I mean? So you can create projects that return your investment or return the capital investment that you put in, but at least benefit certain people that you can see. Like, people are working so hard in the diaspora, to be honest. And and they need some place where they can retire. And this is very important for people that came to the diaspora 15, 20 years ago. They're now getting into their 50s and all. A lot of them are now thinking about retirement. Do they retire in the diaspora or do they retire at home? So we should be looking at some of the programs that benefit the country, because this is fixed asset that we're talking about here, property. That's a good thing about it. So like what Karen said earlier, right? We can actually influence things, because the properties that we build or the estates that we build will be modeled to the lifestyle that we're used to. So like she talked about power, she talked about solar, water, sorry. So we can build estates that have got alternatives, solar, tanks, pumps for water, everything. So these can be very autonomous, very comfortable, you know what I mean? But we can target them for people that we know, obviously, having lived in the diaspora. I know what happens around here. So those are things that we're trying to do, benefit as well the country. But yeah, that's where we are. The platform itself will be running in a few weeks, but at the moment, get me on the Pacific One Drop One.
Great, thank you. Just kind of following up on what Method has been talking about, coming back home, bringing the investment back home. So now people are retiring, people are wanting to invest. They don't necessarily want to retire in the UK or Canada or Australia. What's available, Karen? Now we're talking like somebody right now is ready to come back home. What is currently available? What is going on in the Zim market? What platforms are available? We talked, Colleen and Zeb talked about 16-week investor as a platform where people actually get some information, get some mentorship. What's available for people in Zimbabwe, people who want to come back home? What projects are running right now for everyone? I'm sure even Zeb and Colleen and Method can benefit from this, people wanting to come back and invest back home. What's happening right now on the ground, Karen?
Okay, thanks for that, Tinda. So one thing that I have to say, I think this is probably the one time that I'm going to use the disclaimer, is that the Zimbabwe market is definitely different to what Zeb and Colleen are actually experiencing out in Canada and stuff like that, in terms of having, and I won't say generic information, but I mean having information which is more mentorship and training to get people on that particular investment model. Currently, we're not set up for it right now because we've got a lot of more dated properties currently at this particular place and point in time. However, this is not to say that construction is at a halt or there's no construction or any developments that are actually underway. We've got a lot of places in Harare, let's just say for the present moment, we've got I think about 2 or 3 really large developments that have been constructed over the last 5 or so years to date, which have actually been very successful in terms of the development of them, the construction thereafter, the sales or even the rentals side of it. And they cover like basically from your low to your middle market kind of areas. So for me to say right now that they're more geared to the investor, that would be incorrect. That would probably be more geared to somebody who wants to purchase a property for themselves, for their own personal use. If we were to look to somebody who's saying, I want to invest in Zimbabwe, what would work as an I want to invest in Zimbabwe would be more to the model of what Method is actually saying. That right now, and I hope that we'll be able to chat with Method hereafter, is there's going to be, let's say for argument's sake, such and such a development that's actually going to come about because there are these particular units. And whether it's a matter of someone has the land and what they're looking for is the capacity by way of finance, or they're looking for the capacity by way of that intellectual capital that you can get with architects and other contractors and stuff that come through into the whole building project. Those kind of things are what we need to gradually increase, because it's an industry that's really waiting for people to fully take advantage of. This is what I'm just trying to get across. So in terms of investment back home, I think we're finding personally as real estate agents that a lot of people who are in the diaspora are probably looking for a home that they're building for themselves. Very few people are actually realizing just what opportunities are actually there that are really great for the investment capsule in Zimbabwe. We usually get compared with South Africa, and everybody turns around and says, oh, it's cheaper to actually buy property in South Africa than it is in Zimbabwe. You know, it's sort of, to me, it's like half a dozen of one and six of the other, because there are a lot of other internal costs that people can look at a glance and say, maybe it's better for me to spend 100,000 Rand than to spend $30,000 in South Africa. So what we want to actually get at with these kind of stimulus is to get to the point where Zimbabwe is a viable investment option, not just a let me just retire at home option, where a person is just buying, like I said before, the cheapest available stand so that they can have a home. It's not just someplace where it's more of an umbilical cord attachment. We want it to be a financial hub. So many countries are actually benefiting so much from the investment of real estate. It is a really big business, which has got so much that it can add into the GDP of a particular nation. So we just need to get that particular thing grown up. And then if that actually happens, we can start to then build those models where we can have the mentorship and training, because we will have something, would have had a case product where we could start to talk about the investment value of this particular area and have the facts and the figures, and have people who have actually taken this in, because it is a trust project. Right now, we've got a lot of trust issues that have probably dented people's expectation of Zimbabwe in the property market, and we need to get over that. You need to actually be in it to be able to win and to earn. You have to definitely be working towards it. So more so what I'm finding in terms of actual engagement, and I hope this answers you, is that I'm getting a lot of people who are actually looking for properties to retire in or actually own their first home property. But a few people are actually looking at the investment model. And this is what I guess maybe for us, we can start to showcase more to the diaspora and be connected to your guys' chains and channels, so that we can discuss these things more openly, because they know you, they trust you. When they get to deal with people over this side who are registered and accredited to work within these fields, the trust and that gap that has probably been existing will then get nullified, and we can actually start to produce more and benefit a bit further from that.
Sorry, am I on now? Yeah, there's need for, you know, synergies between, so Colleen and Zeb in Canada, they've got people that they're talking to, that they're working with. Method has this group that he's also working with, and then Karen has a know-how. She's on the ground. She knows what's happening. She can do the, you know, part of the research to help people get the information that they need to actually make the right investments back home. So we are quickly running out of time, but I just saw a question here that came up. I think it's for Karen. I'm gonna ask Karen to just quickly answer it and give some closing remarks, and then we'll go around and let everybody else give a closing remark. So Chipo Dendere says, what mortgage options exist for diaspora in Zimbabwe?
Okay, I won't mention the names of their banking institutions, if that's okay. I don't know if that's
sure. Yeah.
an issue, but they're about from at the present moment, there's about 3 or 4 banks, commercial banks in Zimbabwe that are offering mortgages to the diaspora. And to be honest, predominantly most of the mortgages that are on the market right now are being offered for the diaspora. So they're coming in with various levels of qualification criteria, where either you can have a 0% deposit or a 20% deposit or a 30% deposit. And then the tenure is anything between, I think, between 5 to 15 years. And then the interest rates, again, are varied depending on which institution that you're working and dealing with. So there are mortgage options that are available. Some of them are specific to bank projects. The banks have got some development projects that they have actually undertaken, and they're offering mortgages specifically for those particular developments, whether it is by way of a stand or it is a housing unit. That's what they're actually offering currently. And they're available if you deal directly with the banks, or if you actually engage an agent to actually try to find out what can actually be available for you. So there's no mortgages that are being offered currently that are going to be available for an individual purchase, such as you wanting to buy a house from somebody right now. Those do not currently exist. They're mainly particularly attached to certain developments.
Right. So, I mean, if people need more information, then they can come to you, Karen. Karen will leave her details, maybe a website or an email address in the comments section where you can reach her if you're wanting to find out more about investing options in Zimbabwe. So this is a lot. This is a lot. I'm putting together my 15,000 as we speak. It's somewhere. It's coming. It's coming. But thank you guys for coming through. This has been a very informative discussion. A lot of myths have been cleared up, especially for me. There's a lot of words, big words that I've been using and not knowing what I've been saying. So thank you very much for clearing all that up for us. It's an honor to have you guys sit with us. I know there's a lot going on in your businesses and all that. So thank you very much for taking time out to come and tell people and share your knowledge with everyone. I'm sure there's Zimbabweans all over the world who are tuning in and getting some very valuable information from this session. So just imparting, I want to say to everybody who's listening, there's links in the comments. You can go ahead and follow up with Zeb and Colleen. You can follow up with Karen, follow up with Method. Find out where you can put your 15,000 and or your 200 if you're interested in doing some property investment. So Zeb and Colleen, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
Method, thank you so very much. I am not happy that you did not share the wine, but thank you for coming through.
Next time. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Karen?
What is the wine? Sorry?
Yes, Colleen, go ahead.
Sorry?
I didn't hear that.
Sorry, go ahead, Colleen.
Say again.
What's the name of the wine?
So if you look up Pacific One Drop.
Pacific One Drop. All right.
Yes.
So we will be having some of that next time. Karen, thank you so very much for coming through.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome.
It was a great exchange.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, a big thank you again to World Remit for sponsoring this. You have made an amazing conversation come through to the whole of the diaspora and Zimbabweans, so thank you very much for that. Another shout out to Kudu Business Support, Highmount Construction, and Fine and Country. Thank you so much for making this happen. This will be available on Zimba Chiva's Facebook page and on Zimba Live and on YouTube. If there's any questions, I think the panelists could maybe check in later on to see if there are any unanswered questions, and maybe if you've got some information, you can help people out in the comments. But this is going to be available for everyone to get the information that they need to start investing. Follow the conversation on Twitter, hashtag ZAA Summit. And we're still due for one more session for the summit, and unfortunately it will have to all come to an end, but it's been great having you guys. This has been a great session. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun, and thank you for coming through, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. So we have the next session coming up. We're going to be talking tourism and conservation, and that's going to be at 7 o'clock. So we hope that everybody can join in for the last session of the ZAA Global Summit for 2020. So we'll be back here at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you there.